Yo, what is up? We are back with another reaction video, and today we are playing the LHMTV Tier 8 British Light Tank Special. Of course, I'm going into this reaction video blind, but first remember to subscribe and turn on your notifications, especially if you are here for the mod pack videos. You get a notification every time I put up a new video on the latest mod pack. Now, as I was saying, I'm going into this game blind. This is my first game in the tier 8 light tank. I didn't research any stats, but of course this is a post-game commentary, so I've done my research after I played a few games on the tank, so I wanted to give you some perspective on that. Now, I came to Erlenberg South and noticed this bush here and how small it was, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to test out the camo on this tank. Now, surprisingly, what I found out about the camo values, it has 40% camo rating. If you have all the camo crews, BIA, paint, food, if you have everything decked out, you have 40% camo, which is pretty good. Compared to any other tank, it is as good as a LT432 camo rating, but of course nothing beats the ELC Even 90, which is close to 48%. Now, you can get this tank up to 42% camo rating if you have the camo directives for your crew on. You know, that thing costs 6 bonds or something like that to buy, but you can earn a lot of those directives for free when you do missions. I managed to gather out 500 something of those doing tournaments and daily missions, and you know, they give it out for free. So I discovered that I have 500 of them lying around. So what kind of tanks do you put them on? Well, put them on your passive scouting tanks, like this one, which is supposed to be passive scouting. So that's exactly what I'm doing, passive scouting with this tank. I'm gonna get proxied, and I do get proxied, take 2 big hits down to 11 HP or something, and that's my first experience with this tank. It's supposed to be some kind of good passive scouter like the ELC Even 90, although the camo rating is not as good as the ELC Even 90, you know what I'm saying? 40%, 42%, the absolute best camo rating, while the ELC Even can push it up to, ELC Even 90 pushes up the camo value up to about 48%. So as usual, now I've got something to say. Light tanks are my favorite class of tanks to play because they offer a style of gameplay that I like. Mobility, camouflage, spotting, using your view range, using a camouflage, flexing around the map. I like this kind of gameplay. Now you see that Super Persian running away, so that was my cue to flank on this side and spot him. I wanted to go on this side earlier, but when I spotted him making the cross, I was like, you know, it was quite dangerous for me to cross on this side. It was more useful for me to try and spot him, spot the guys in the center at the back. But we managed to get a shot and finish him off. Now I'm signaling to my team. There's a lot of campers at the back of me, and I signal to them to come forward while I push. Oh my goodness, there is a light tank here, but what's wrong with him? He's not paying attention to me. I didn't realize this then, but obviously he is AFK. He's dropped connection. Lucky for me, because of that I made it to this side. Otherwise I would have definitely died, seeing as though I only have 11 HP. But nevertheless, we've made it out alive, and it looks like we are going to win this game and possibly clean out this game. So I'm just making my way, try to flank and shoot, and try to finish off this game with as much damage as I can. Now, one thing good about the LHMTV is penetration on the standard shells. 226 standard penetration. It is superbly good for a light tank. 226 penetration, while the premium APCR gets you 258 penetration. Now that's a lot better than other tanks. For example, the ELC even only does 175 penetration on the standard AP shells, while the APCR shells only yields 215 penetration. So this standard shell is better than ELC even's premium shells penetration. Now, I got caught out there from the Pantera. I thought he was out in the western side of the map, but looked like he relocated and got my side there. I didn't expect him to be there, but well, too bad. You live and you learn. The next game is my latest game in this tank before I made this video, which is probably my 7th game in this tank. I've had a little bit of experience in this game, I guess, in this tank, I guess. I've decided to change up the camo a bit, and in that first game I actually didn't have the top radio, and I didn't have the top engine. Now, in my experience, I've actually played all these tanks in the common test server. Now, the tier 7 setter that precedes before this tank, I think that tank was designed by Wargaming just to troll the free-to-play players. You know, like, you want a free-to-play? Here, go ahead, take this tier 7, go fuck yourself. That's the impression I'm getting from the tier 7 setter. I didn't even bother to play it in my live account. I just free XP'd my way straight into the tier 8. That's because the tier 7 was not worth the pain to grind in the tech tree. I played it in the common test server. It was terrible. That tank was just absolutely terrible. It was not worth anything. So I just free XP myself, save myself the pain, and get into the tier 8. And I suggest you do the same. Forget about the tier 7. It wasn't meant, it wasn't an unplayable tank, you know what I mean? It was totally shit. The tier 8, however, the tier 8 is not totally shit. The tier 8 is playable. Well, the tier 7 wasn't shit, totally shit. The tier 7 was in between playable and shit, you know what I mean? It was bad enough to make you want to free XP over the tier 7. I think that's the whole idea. You know, they don't want you to play the tier 7. Wargaming wants you to skip the tier 7. So they didn't make it as good as they could have. They just made it playable, but, you know, in between shit and playable. This tank, however, on the other hand, is very playable. Penetration of 226 for standard shells means you don't need to dip into your APCRs a lot. 230 damage per shot, which is 10 more than the ELC even, and compared to the similar tank HWK12, 240 damage. This 230 damage is not too bad at all. The reload time, however, is the downside. 9.79 seconds of reload time. This tank, they want you to be passive. They want you to be a sniper. That's what it's designed to do. And more evidence of that is because of its shell velocity. 1020 standard shell velocity is pretty good for a tier 8 light tank. And the premium shells, 1275 meters per second shell velocity. That is amazing for a light tank. Compared to the HWK12, HWK12 only has 630 shell velocity in the standard AP shells, and the heat shells also has 630 meters per second shell velocity. You're kind of like in the HWK, you're kind of like throwing your shells at your enemy tanks. That's how slow the shell speed is. Now I managed to, you see that shell velocity of the HWK? By the time he could shoot me, I could shoot him once and evade him. So that it was the HWK12 shell velocity for you. That's the difference between 1000 shell velocity and 600 shell velocity. This tank is a distance sniper, so that's exactly what I'm doing in this game. Now, early in this game, you could see that Lynx 6x6 didn't do any spotting at all. He just sat back and spotted from the base. And just as well, I almost wanted to charge down the middle and spot, do some active and passive spotting, try to passive in the bush in the middle of the map. I'm glad I didn't do that, and I decided to conserve my HP and play the late game in the light tank which I think is what the idea of this tank is supposed to be. Try to be a passive spotter, try to be a sniper early in the game into the mid of the game, and then you emerge in the mid towards the late of the game where you have full HP and your enemies don't have full HP, and you can pick them off either from a distance or from close distance, or like what I'm doing right now, joining my friendos in the light tank LTs and help them out to eliminate the enemies ELC EBR 75, and between the three of us we managed to take out that EBR 75. So I think this is the correct way to play this tank, but unfortunately the challenge with these kind of light tanks is you don't get to play this style all the time in all the maps. That's because there's not too many open maps that you can use the view range and camouflage values to your advantage. So there are not a lot of maps that you can employ this kind of strategy and play this kind of style, but you can make the most of it. Now, like I say, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I do like light tanks and I enjoy the light tank challenge. The tier 7 was not a challenge. The tier 7 was for masochists, you know. If you want to torture yourself, you want to inflict pain on yourself, you want to see suffering, go for the tier 7. But the tier 8, however, is playable. The tier 8, it's not, don't compare it to an LT432, you know. Don't compare it to a HWK30. It's not that kind of a competitive tank. It is however, a HWK12 alternative. It is an ELC even 90 alternative, where the ELC even is even more passive of a scout. The LHMTV is a little bit more active than the ELC even 90. You know what I'm saying? It is still leaning on the passive side of scouting, but you still have combat capabilities. You can shoot on the move if you are driving close by, like what I'm going to demonstrate right now. I'm going to do a drive-by, try to circle strafe this KV4 or whatever this tank is. He does not have the speed to do anything about me. I can, you know, I can juke him, no problem. Drive around him. The reverse speed isn't that good, but I can do it. Now I'm trying to signal to the TD behind me to lend some help, support, go forward, take out SU-130Y. Now that was a pixel shot and I missed it and I wasn't fully aimed, so I'm accepting that, you know, it's not a big deal. What I'm decided to do right now is rush the SU-130 because the 130 has a limited turret traverse. I felt that I could take a shot and then just stay behind him and finish him off. So that's exactly what I wanted to do, and I'm gonna lock on and fire on the move. Not bad, right? I mean, this tank can do it. It can shoot on the move. So this is exactly what I wanted to do. Drive behind him, shoot him. If he turned his tank around, maybe I'll run away, but I got jebaited there. The Emil was waiting for me. 1951 finished me off, but I do get some residual damage here. I do get some spotting damage. They finish off the Emil 1951 and I get a little bit of spotting damage from that. I am dead. The game is over for me. We do end up winning this game. I do end up doing 2,618 damage with another 2,196 spotting. Now what you're seeing in the results here, one thing is very good. Out of the 19 shots that I made 12 of them and all 12 penned. That is the story, the story of today. And in the first game, I fired 8 times, I connected 7 times, and I penned all 7 of my shots. So that's that's a good thing about the shell velocity and the penetration about this tank. So hope you got some good information and some insight into the LHMTV Tier 8 British light tank, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye, thanks for watching.